Welcome back to the YouTube Sports Network. This is the continuation of the open discussion we were having about the AFC. Now, will I complete the NFC within the next hour or so? Or will I even complete this in the next hour or so? I'm going to try my best, guys. It is getting late over here. So, I'm going to take a little snooze after I get done with this, because the YouTube Sports Network works all around the clock on every single time zone and on every cable box and streaming service and Wi-Fi network. So wherever you want to find me, you can find me. Just ask around and you'll get me. Let's try to see if I can get this through. So here we go. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We named a few. We spoke about the Ravens and the Bengals and a few other teams. So we're going to move along. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were 9-7-1. Let's be efficient. Let's be efficient here. Let's show the world we could be efficient in our debut. Remember, we're unorthodox. We're different. We're not what you see on TV. So, Pittsburgh Steelers, 9-7-1. There was a time when I hear a lot of chatter. Mike Tomlin's got to go. He's a horrible coach. Fire him. And it's like season after season, these guys wind up at least with a winning record, or at least 500. That's the first thing you see the Steelers struggle. But what happened last year, despite, by the way, the only team that ties, you know, despite a record last year, they had some things they got to work on. We're going to start with the offense. This is their main thing: 4.8 yards per play. Now, this ain't your older brother's team, the Steelers, when they can run the ball and throw the ball over the field. Even then, no. Let's draw that back a little bit. Big Ben first came in. He was throwing for like 180 yards a game. Then all of a sudden, he was that big passer. Then he goes back. Interesting career. But that's the Steelers. I don't think Terry Bradshaw was lighting up all over the field, although who am I to speak about the era of Terry Bradshaw when I wasn't even a thought. So forgive me if I misspoke, Steelers Nation. Forgive me. But 4.8 yards per play, I think we'd agree on that is something that's out of the ordinary for the Steelers. And what's more out of the ordinary is that the fact that they really couldn't run the ball. 29th in total rush yards. Or you can just say 29th in rush yards per game with 93.1 rush yards per game. That's usually not the case. And they really tried to run. I mean, they were 28th in rush attempts, so they really tried to run, but they just couldn't get it going. I mean, Najee Harris is only one of two running backs in the NFL with 300-plus carries, but he wound up with 1,200. Well, 1,200 yards is nice, but that's a 3.9 yards per rush average. So that's not like, yes, volume is great, but, what you do with the volume, like, you need to 3.9 yards per rush is near the bottom of the league individually, or at least, it's less than average, and you don't want that. So, solid, counting stats, you're like, okay, not bad, but they gotta, and the problems start with their offensive line. They had a difficult time running the ball, but it had to do with the fact that they just, they haven't been able to find that consistency there for a while. That was the fabric of their team. Good defense, solid offensive line. So what they did was they invested in it. It's known. So they went out, they got Cole Mason, they got a center for 3 years, 15.75 and change. So they got him, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's from Jaguars or the Vikings. I'm blanking on that one. But, it is something, or it is somebody that's going to help them. James Daniels, if you remember, Chris Collinsworth was going crazy over this guy when he watched the telecast and the Bears are playing. Surprisingly, I don't know how he's not back with the Bears. They found his replacement, but James Daniels is not very old at all. And I thought it was a great contract. 3 years, $26.5 million. That's not bad for a guy who's very good at position. So they got a nice little thing. Apparently, that's like considered one of the better contracts in the NFL that was handed out. So kudos to the Steelers for getting that done. And then they got Jesse Davis, who's a versatile, list him as a guard, but I don't know, he doesn't have that guard body type but they got him in trade from the Vikings, so they got some depth there as well. So, and they also let some linemen go, and they also let James Washington go, but they brought in some other guys for him. So through the draft at least. So what I'm getting at, Steelers not running the ball very well. If they're going to improve on that, it's gonna happen by way of their new free agent signings. So let's see how they do there. 4.8 yards a play. It's just strange to me. Defensively, this is another thing the Steelers struggle with. 32nd against the run. So they don't run the ball well, and then they don't run the ball well. They don't run the ball well, and then they give up a lot of rushing yards to their opponent. In fact, they were the worst against the rush to their opponent. So that is a mix that's not normally the case for the Steelers. So that, and the most disrespectful thing about it is that the opposing teams, they had the 7th most carries. The Steelers had the 7th most carries against them. So it was the Steelers. I mean, the opponents weren't even worried about it. They don't even trying to hide it. They're just gonna say, you know what, we're gonna run the ball, and we're gonna run the ball all day. So a lot of rush yards against them, and they gave up a lot of yards. So it's kind of disrespectful. But they got to do better. The Steelers got to do better stopping it. But they also were 4th most penalties. Oh no, excuse me, the most penalties committed. That's not usually a little bit more. They got to be a little bit more disciplined than that. Tomlin doesn't stand for that. And they've missed the 4th most missed. They're the 4th most missed tackles. So a lot of numbers coming at you. But in the baseline of it is they don't stop the run. They didn't run the ball well themselves, and they couldn't get the ball downfield. So how do they fix that? They invest in offensive line. They drafted a receiver in the 2nd round, of course, which is probably going to pan out because that's usually the history of the team. It works out. And, they are now have a depth chart that has 3 quarterbacks. And right now, the early favorite is Mitch Trubisky, which I hope they give him a long look. I know Kenny Pickett, dude, who almost fell into their lap so perfectly. For the glove on the right hand, he's channeling his inner Kurt Warner. That's amazing, cool. Also, he went to Pittsburgh, so it's like, come on, was it not more of a slow dunk, draft pick than that? So kudos to them. But I want to see Trubisky. I want him to, even though it bugged me out when he came to the league, I was bugged out about it. I was thinking to myself, Trubisky, 13 starts, I believe, in college football, right? North Carolina. And all of a sudden was he drafted 2nd? Or all this maneuvering that was going on, Mahomes situation, he was attached to that. And he got drafted that high? How do you know? I mean, sometimes these guys, really project. I don't know. I wonder if that guy who really was in favor of getting Trubisky is still employed. I mean, that's really disrespectful. Forgive me for saying it. Not that either one of them suck at what they're doing. But, I mean, all right, we're going to move on from that topic. Trubisky, I hope you have a fantastic season, okay? And I hope the guy who found you, hope you're still doing your thing. Because guess what? Talent is talent. And at that time, he was a talent guy. I remember seeing it and going, wow, he could throw the deep ball well. Wow, he's got a pretty decent arm. But again, lack of experience leads to some decisions that are questionable. So let's talk about real quick on the defensive what they brought in. Levi Wallace, love the pickup. Got him from the Bills, 4-year starter. Can't beat that. Miles Jack, they have all those missed tackles. Now they got a guy, Miles Jack, who, not that he makes every tackle, because he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's going to fly around that defense to pair up with Devin Bush. So nice little duo they got going there. Although nice little four linebackers over there they got. I mean, T.J. Watt, of course, is considered one too, but Alex Highsmith is a nice find as well. So a little bit of going back to the old Steelers days with those good linebackers. And then they picked up, oh my God, I butchered this earlier, Larry Ongujobi. Oh God, I hope I meet Larry one day and he can teach me how to say that properly. But I believe he's the guy that was a part of the Mason Rudolph helmet swinging, Miles Garrett helmet swinging incident. I believe Larry, like from behind, he gave him a cheap shot and he fell to the ground. And I just remember him being involved. I believe it's almost the same guy. Anyway, got him from Cincinnati. 1 year, $8 million. That might be, that's kind of high. 1 year, $8 million? That's a good amount of money for him. You just got Levi Wallace for 2 years and $8 million. like, who has the bigger impact? That means they're really needing that pass rush. DeMonte Casey from the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, 1 year and barely over $1 million. That's a solid deal. Malik Reed, Denver's willing to part ways. They have excess over there, I guess, of pass rushers in their minds. So they were able to get Malik Reed from the Broncos, the Steelers were. So, for a team that can use some help, stopping the rush. I mean, I don't know how. Malik Reed is one of those edge rushers, but he's a big body that can hold up a block. So he could help. I think he will help. Miles Jack, and remember what's important about stopping the run. Now, I'm no D coordinator, but once you get past the line of scrimmage, you got to get those linebackers in there. So let's see what happens there. At the end of the day, they still got the eighth most sacks, the Steelers, and as bad as they might be defensively, like in between, in between the 20s, when it came down to crunch and they had to get a stop on third down or in the red zone, they came up. They're one of the better teams at doing that. Seventh and third down, and then fifth in red zone. So it's a lot. I mean, it's interesting. I've given you a lot here. And I want to finish off with this. Brian Flores, I mean, that might be the underrated. I know the whole situation with the controversy, but that's a really underrated move to me. Like, maybe that's the shot in the arm that they need. Him all fired up on what's going on. Like, that's a pretty damn good spot for him to go back to. But was he there before? That's a good spot. No, he was with the Patriots. Perfect fit. Let's move on. Cleveland Browns, 8-9. The Cleveland Browns were 8-9 last season. So why were they 8-9 last season? Well, 20th in points scored. Okay, got it. So, they didn't put too many points on the board, which makes complete sense. I mean, look who the quarterback is, Baker Mayfield. No, forgive me, but I'm not a big fan of the guy. Never have been. I'm not sure if I ever will. I'm not saying I don't want him to do well, but this is something about the guy where it's just like, bro, can you just stop? You and your wife, you guys are annoying. A package deal. Please, just shut up. It sounds like you're the best quarterback in the world. And it's not like, well, how should I say this? You had every opportunity to make the team better. And in fact, you had a defense that was one of the best in the league. But one big difference, and first of all, and you had a running game that was one of the best in the league. And you had a coordinator or a head coach in Kevin Stefanski, who, when he had Kirk Cousins for that 1 year's OC and also working with the Vikings for that while, they were really good at making your quarterback rating or producing solid passing statistics. It's like that offense is designed for the quarterback to have a good completion percentage, a good quarterback rating, and open throws. But I know I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but at the same time, it's like just look at Kirk Cousins' stats. With Stefanski. I thought I heard something. Jesus. So what I'm saying is, bro, you're kind of like the problem, and you don't want to face it. You had Odell, Beckham, you had Jarvis Landry. You have good players there. You have 3 tight ends there. They're it all start on. They're all good. Your offensive line was. I mean, that's the thing. You did get sacked a lot of times, but I credit you. I also give you a little bit of blame. I'm talking to Baker, he's right here in front of me. It's just he's kind of annoying. So with that being said, I think it leads from this point. How important is it for the Browns to have a good quarterback? No wonder why they go out and they get Deshaun Watson. Oddly enough, he suspended 11 games. What an odd number, 11. How do you come up with that? But I think he's coming back week 13 because there's a bye involved. I don't know. Are they going to survive? Are they going to weather the storm? I mean, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, those guys are going to have to be there, do their thing. Kareem Hunt wanted out, but Kareem, we're going to need you. Or they're going to need you. The Ernest Johnson, he's ready to step in whenever because when he does his thing. I really believe it's going to be like a Josh Dobbs type of situation. I really do. Brissett last year with Miami, it's just something about it. I think he's limited. He doesn't make all the throws on the field. I mean, he's tough. He takes a beating, and he gets up too. The same like I described Davis Mills. Something about it. I mean, ironically, Brissett and Watson on the same team now. They both took beatings, and he just got up. Do you remember Watson with the Texans? That guy was whatever. Anyway, so I think it might turn into a Josh Dobbs, maybe situation. I mean, Calamond, is he going to be the dude? Something's going on. You might see all three for God's sake. He's going to get creative over there and creative with Cleveland. But, their defense is solid. Their defense, fifth in pass yards a game, 10th in completion percentage, 13th in QB rating. I mean, I could throw these numbers, and to some people, they mean everything. To some people, they mean nothing. They're numbers, and you can judge them how you want to judge them. But the eyeball, I mean, let's just do the eyeball thing. The eyeball thing is the Browns, you never know what you're going to get. I always said that, man, that's a weird like last year I kept saying, this is a weird – you never know what this like in fantasy. I'm talking fantasy. The Browns in fantasy football, their defense. Man, just look at their numbers. There's times that they can put up 20 points, 20-something points in fantasy, and there's a time to put up -2 or 0 points. It's like you never know which Brown teams you're going to get. They are like a streaky team, or they're like hit or miss. It's interesting. There's a lot of talent on that team, but it's a matter of like they're like any given Sunday. Well, this whole league is any given Sunday. God, it's playing on every Sunday, but it's like you never know. But the Browns have so much talent, and in a lot of spurts last year, they lost a lot of close games. And what does that mean when you lose a lot of close games? A lot of times it falls on your quarterback. So better quarterback play is going to be important. I mean, I could read you the stats. I kind of want to, but I don't. 0 fourth quarter comebacks. I'll start with that. Forgive me. 0 game-winning drives. Okay. 0 fourth quarter comebacks, 0 game-winning drives, and they were 8-9. And they had a lot of close games. I mean, that has to go down on the quarterback. 26 in completion percentage, 26 in yards per game. That's not. I missed something there. 26 in QB rating, 23rd in red zone attempts, 23rd, 10th in red zone percentage. So they got it down here and there when they did get there. But they got to be able to move the ball. Numbers aside, they got to be able to move the ball. I don't have to give you any more numbers. You saw what it was. 49 sacks allowed. That's not going to fly. Just wait till Baker sees what Carolina does. They're right behind them, or right in front of them, I think. So anyway, we know the deal. I gave it a defense. They're really good. You know who they got. Myles Garrett, bunch of players. But, a young secondary. It's just a matter of if their quarterback play is going to increase. Are they going to get better quarterback play? Because that actually arguably is the difference for that team. Because you got the defense, you got the running game. I mean, the sacks were really high, but I'm going to give some to Baker because he held on to the ball a lot. I mean, are those guys really not open? Unless he didn't want to throw a pick. We'll see what happens in Carolina. That's all I got to say. All right, let's go. Let's move on. The analysis from the YouTube Sports Network, working real late into the night. I'm going to mark this off. Browns. I think we got a couple. Damn, we got like 8 more teams to go. I might have to. Don't worry about it. All right, let's go. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Shall we? I don't even have to go deep into this. Here's the deal. 2 at a time. If you ever speak to a Dolphins fan, ask them this, or just present the situation. Say, hey, what do you think about when the Dolphins had a chance to draft Justin Herbert, 5th overall, but just took Tua instead? What do you feel about that? I mean, I don't know. Some people will say they don't care. It's like, whatever. But then, like, Miami fans are kind of like, whatever. Like, do they care? I don't know. I mean, the weather's great. Whatever. You know all the amenities over there. But it's like you realize that, right? The eye test. You had a Justin Herbert who's like an anomaly. Like this 6'6", big arm, any throw on the football field, can run. Like, what else did you need to see compared to, no offense, but to like a smaller, more awkward. I mean, it's awkward because the lefty, we're not used to seeing it. It's like an optical illusion. But it's like really? Like, what? He was better than him? It's that tank for Tua, man. They bought into the hype, and then they went out and they drafted what was it was like, what was the more favorable? This is so weird. I'm trying to figure out why Herbert wasn't like more of an option for the Dolphins than Tua. I mean, that's it. I mean, especially Tua coming off the had some lower body issues, had a tough injury he had to recover from, and he did. But it's just like, what happened there? Why wouldn't they? All right. So anyway, Dolphins. Let's start with their strengths. The strength of the Dolphins is their defense. I mean, literally, if you look at their defense, their depth chart, it's like a Madden. Like you put it together through Madden. Like they have a really nice defense. Like between younger, like second and third year players, a lot of second and third year players, a good amount of veterans, and then you got guys in your prime. So I mean, you got Xavier Howard, who's you guys still say he's in his prime. I mean, you got I don't know. I'm not even gonna go down the list because you just gotta. It's just there. I mean, you're getting the vets and Melvin Ingram and Trey Flowers, like the veterans right there who've done it. Although Flowers isn't that old, but it's like those guys. Ingram like was a monster at one point, and then you got the young guys and Jalen Phillips, and then you got the unsung hero, the leader of the defense, Christian Wilkins. He's only 3 years into the league. Abba was an amazing free agent signing. Raekwon Davis is one of the biggest specimens you'll ever witness at the nose tackle position. You see what they got? I mean, Landon Roberts. If you guys don't pay attention to Landon Roberts, he's been around for a while. This guy is not afraid of contact. And on top, I mean, came from New England, but like he's getting his opportunity more so with the Dolphins to play like some serious minutes here, like it's not basketball, but some serious, snaps. And then you got all those that secondary that's young, that's invested into, and it's playing well. I mean, they got Byron Jones hurt, so he should be coming back in a bit. But my guy Andrew Van Ginkel, you guys know Andrew Van Ginkel? What a great rotational player. A guy that can get to the quarterback. I'm telling you, it gets me excited because it's like it's a really well put together defense. You got to be happy if you're working in the front office. So you got to be happy. Sam Egovian. I'm horrible with these names, but Zach Sealer. These are guys that they find and they just do well. It's a really good rotation. They have a possibility. They could be the best defense in football. I mean, that seems crazy to say that. But, like, as far as the athleticism and the rotation, and, they blitz like crazy and they use all their personnel. It's like, that's more of a thing now. Use all your personnel. Use everybody you got on the roster. Keep the bodies fresh. Smart moves. But again, that's what they do well. And here's what they don't do well. 31st in yards per completion. Second lowest yards per carry in the NFL, 3.5. 30th in rush yards per game. So again, not to see the theory here. I mean, see the pattern. Not a very good rushing team. Can't get the ball down the field. There's always that's why it's like you can never have that perfect team. There's always one team that's better than this, than the other team, or one team that has, maybe a little bit more balance than others. But there's something there. So like every team, well, there's only very few. Like that Buccaneers team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Like you can argue that was like one of the best teams ever assembled, and you really can, because they had stars up. But that's almost like, I honestly can say it's almost like the Dolphins defense right now. Like it's that well put together, where they have everything you need. All age groups going to contribute. But you see, so when you have a component like that, and then you can mix it in with a quarterback like Brady and with the weapons he had and offensive line, like no wonder he won. They won. So as far as the Dolphins, they don't run the ball. They don't get the ball down the field. And we need to see, or not we, but everyone has to see what Tua, everybody, whoever you follow football, it's all about Tua. You add Tyreek Hill, you add Cedric Wilson, you add the top left tackle on the free agent market, Teron Armstead. I mean, you got a good offensive line now. I mean, you would think, although a lot of those guys are coming back from their first round picks, but they're coming back from last year. First and second round picks coming back. I mean, they got to protect. They got to run the ball. They got to do something. They got to get the ball down the field. So, it's just a matter of what do the Dolphins do offensively. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, who's a tough kid, making catches in the middle of the field like it was no problem. I don't care who's there. I don't care there's a linebacker there. Maybe he was just a little. He was more gutsy than he should have been, but he was fine. I was very impressed with him. So, I mean, you add Chase Edmonds, you add Raheem Mostert, you have Myles Gaskin, you got your Alec Ingold, who can leap over people as a fullback. I cannot mention Salvin Ahmed. Forgive me, I just don't want to leave the guy out. But it's all about Tua. It's all about Tua. What is Tua going to do? He's 13-8 as a starter in his career. Okay, they win games. He completes a lot of his passes. Sure, that's true. Mike McDaniels is there now. What is Mike McDaniels, who came from the San Francisco coaching tree now? What is he going to do? How is he going to get the most out of Tua? I mean, let's be honest. He's an accurate guy. Tyreek Hill is not lying when he says he's more accurate. I mean, is he lying when he says he's more accurate than Mahomes? I mean, Mahomes isn't even an inaccurate quarterback, so it's like I'm confused by that. But all right, maybe he's like a 2 percentage points more accurate, but I'd rather have 2 percentage points less accuracy, but more of the ability of Mahomes' arm, like the creativeness, the ability to get all the way down the field with it, throw sidearm, throw this, do that. Like, no, it's crazy. Like the arm talent, it's okay. I'll take a little bit more, a little off on the completion percentage to get more out of it. But so Tua, the pressure is on you, my man. The pressure is on you. I mean, it's not like it doesn't necessarily, that's the thing too. It's not necessary that it has to go perfect this year. I mean, he's there. But if it doesn't go very well this year, then it's something that's going to have to be eventually talked about and visited. Is Tua the guy? Is Tua the guy who's going to take the Dolphins to the promised land? Because it would suck to waste a roster as good as the Dolphins right now. It takes time, money, effort, patience, kind of. Not really patience, time, money, and effort. So let's move on. Kansas City Chiefs, 12-5. No more Tyreek Hill. So what did the team do? What did the organization do? The organization then decided, all right, I don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 guys who do what he did. I'm going to get Juju. I'm going to cover all the ground. I'm going to get Juju, who covers the intermediate and shorter part of the field. And then we're going to go ahead and get Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who takes the top off the defense. So it's 2 for 1. Cool. Or 1 for 2. So, okay, got it. You got to commend them for that. They also have Mecole Hardman still there. You're just kind of waiting for him to emerge and be reliable. Not that he's not, but could he take an expanded role? They're talking about Sky Moore, who's this hot rookie that's coming to the league. But then again, there's a bunch of them apparently, or not apparently, there are. So it's what he can emerge. He can come out and do something. So there's a lot of targets available. I mean, at least 100 targets available. It's going to be spread around. Does Clyde Edwards-Helaire show up this year? Maybe he gets a little bit more passes out of the flat, which I always thought they would use him that way. I mean, Ronald Jones is there. Can you imagine Ronald Jones is there? I thought he doesn't he not remind you of Kareem Hunt just a little bit? Is that not a perfect match, at least in theory? So that's there. But with the Chiefs, I mean, do we really have to be concerned about them offensively, even without Hill? I don't think so. I actually think this is a legitimate. I know it's oh duh, but I kind of feel like this is Mahomes gonna come out and be a monster this year. He's gonna come out and he's always gonna put up. He's most of the time gonna put up good numbers, but I feel like he's not gonna struggle. I feel like it's gonna be a real tight race at the MVP with Josh Allen and Mahomes. I really do. I think it's going to also be, I mean, it has been spread out, but I think they're really going to spread that out. I think they're really going to move the ball around all over. You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know how to defend them, even though you never really knew how to defend them. I just think they're going to be a little bit more deceptive than they were. And, of course, Travis Kelce's going to have to be there, be that dude. But I really do. I think there's a lot to I think they're intriguing. I mean, they're always going to be intriguing with their roster, but I think they're really intriguing more so without Hill. I think they're going to be harder to figure out. I'm still waiting for them to get that running game going, though. Like actually commit to it. But you can't. These teams with those quarterbacks refuse to. They refuse to. Orlando Brown, before I move on, Orlando Brown was a guy who was traded from the Ravens to the Chiefs. Big shocking move. Mentioned earlier, Ronnie Stanley, who's a left tackle now for the Ravens, who was part of the roster even when Brown was there. He's getting hurt now, so it makes this trade really interesting. So I wonder, because rumor has it, Orlando Brown, before the season, not even rumors out there, that they couldn't decide on a contract extension. The Chiefs and Brown, and they were a few $1 million apart, so they decided on a 1 year, $16 million and change. What's the change matter when you got $16 million, right? So I think it was a franchise tag, so they got him there. So that's eventually ongoing. I wonder if the Ravens come back like, yo, we need to get this guy back, because I think we might have made a mistake. No disrespect to Stanley, but this guy's a 3-time Pro Bowl. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, Orlando Brown. So early in his career, so I guess he's just like trying to cash in. As far as defensively, listen to this: Mike Hughes, Javarius Ward, Tyrann Mathieu, Daniel Sorensen, Anthony Hitchens, Aaron Reed, Alex Okafor, DeAndre Baker. All those guys have now moved on to either different teams or become free agents. So, I mean, Sorensen, at one point, he's making a lot of plays, and all of a sudden, it's like he was like the butt of every joke. Not that he really was, but he was getting beat a lot. I mean, now he's with the Saints, and watch him do his thing. So is Matthew, also with the Saints. Javarius Ward going to the 49ers, cornerback. Mike Hughes going to the Lions, cornerback. That's one thing about the Chiefs. I mean, like during this whole time of them doing well, it's like they were slowly starting to get these corners that would become recognizable, like Rashard Fenton and L'Jarius Sneed, like two guys like that were noticeable. And then if you can look at the depth chart now, they've also added more into that. They made a couple draft picks this previous year to get a couple more corners. So, like, who's to say that those two guys are not going to eventually be a part of the rotation as well, or maybe even as early as they're going to have to be. They're on the 53-man roster. But it's like the Chiefs are, they're good and they're developing, which is really great teams. Like, not a lot of teams can do that or have the luxury to do that. That means you have to be really good at something else, like in another area of the field or another part of the game, or have an elite quarterback, which allows you to do that. So as far as what they gained, Carlos Dunlap, love it. I only love it because I like following, I like when guys who are having great careers, I love when they keep having a great career. I love that. Carlos Dunlap has almost 100 sacks, if not over 100 or damn near close. Like, if he plays on a 3, 4, 5, who knows how old? He's not even that old. But if he continues to go and gets 8 sacks a year, we're talking about a guy that's close to 100, 124, excuse my math, 132, whatever, 130 sacks a year. And for his career, those are some big time numbers right there. So maybe one day we're going to look back and say, yo, remember Carlos Dunlap on the freaking Chiefs? But I mean, you got him, George Karlaftis. Again, I butchered these names. First-round pick. I like that he's wearing number 56. Gives me the impression he's going to have a good season. Something about what number you choose. I mean, they have this very let's just say the band's back together. It's a lot of the same guys. I mean, they drafted into the secondary. Their linebackers are key there, too. They got athletic linebackers. I mean, Nick Bolton was a nice find. I remember opening packs of cards and going, Nick Bolton, who the? Not like I said, I don't know these guys like that, but I was like, Nick Bolton, huh? Chiefs linebacker. Let's see how he does. All of a sudden, great season. Willie Gay, athletic, very athletic linebacker. Some like kind of similar to like a Damian Wilson, who was with the Chiefs as well, but no more. But William Gay, second round pick a couple years ago, so he continues with a big role. But a lot of the same names on the defensive front, and of course they get Justin Reed as a free safety to replace Tyrann Mathieu. It's like the carousel. One guy replaces the other. Reed comes from Houston to the Chiefs. Mathieu was at one point with Houston, went to the Chiefs. It's just an interesting dynamic you got going on here. So, I mean, I'm not even getting into the stats with them. Should I even get into the stats with the Chiefs? Do we need to hear any stats? I mean, would you want to know what makes them great? It all starts with the D-line. It all starts with this. That's why Chris Jones makes all the money he makes. Hurries, pressures, and blitzes, top 10 in all those categories. The Chiefs were. Again, the more pressure you put on the quarterback by way of your defensive linemen, I don't want to use the word easy, but I'm going to now because of lack of a better word, and I can't draw upon anything else. The easier it gets for the corners to do their job. Okay? I just get it with lack of a better word. So, Chris Jones is a master at that. He is like those rare breeds of size and size and strength and all that. So, big dude. So, that is why they're great in other areas or better in other areas. But other than that, I mean, like, it's not like they're immune from stuff. Like, the Chiefs can get passed on, and they do get passed on. And they will let up some yards. I mean, they give up a lot of rushing yards. Excuse me. But a lot of teams, like, it's almost like it doesn't hurt the Chiefs because you're never really in a position to run against the Chiefs. So they will give up their yards, but it's like most of the time you're playing catch up. So you only get those big gains, and you have to throw. And then you got to deal with third down pressure. And then you got to make a good. So there's a lot. See the path and the patterns and the trends and everything is almost relative to something else. So, I mean, they don't get a lot of sacks. So if anything about them is like, okay, they get the pressure, but they're not getting the sacks. I mean, that's why they got out and drafted George. Oh man, Karlaftis. Somebody please teach me these names. So, they're not getting a lot of sacks, which, they stop those drives right there. So once they start getting more sacks, they'll be an elite defense. So they're not quite there, but they definitely are bend but don't break, I'd say. So, but they do. They give up they do give up a lot of yards even through the air as well. I mean, 6th most pass yards given up. So a lot of yards there. They can give up the pass, and they're giving up the runs. So it's like, again, bend but don't break, and as long as you got Mahomes, you're gonna hold it down. So that's about it. I mean, I don't have to say much else about the Chiefs. As far as the outlook on them, maybe I can comment on that. The outlook of the Chiefs. Listen, just because here's the thing I always thought of. Just because they got Patrick Mahomes doesn't necessarily mean that every year they're going to be great. I think that's a misconception. Just because they got arguably the best quarterback in football does not mean that every year they're going to be great. You can look back at Mahomes' career after it's all said and done, and believe me, in 8 years you can go, holy crap, he's already played 11 seasons. You're going to be whatever, 12, 13 seasons, and you're going to say, man, he had a lot more 500 records, 500 seasons with a 500 record than I thought, or he had a couple losing seasons in it. Like, that's just going to happen. I mean, I understand the guy's amazing, but you can't be. There's other variables on a team that eventually you have to replace, and you don't replace it as well as you had it. So that's that. With that being said, I think it's only right that we move on to the Raiders. I got to start hitting more teams in the division, so I'm going to move on to the Raiders, and I think it's right because we're so close to the Raiders in this book, especially after just talking about the Chiefs. Let me see who I didn't talk about. I got those teams. I got some AFC East teams, a couple of those teams. I got the Browns. I got the Bengals. I got the Ravens. I got the Steelers. Done with that division. Okay. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Raiders. The Raiders. Okay, interesting. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because what do you? It's one of those teams you really, just really don't know. Just like the Chargers, you just really don't know. Like talking about the Raiders and the Chargers, like two teams that haven't really figured out how to win a football game or like how to control a football game. It's like you really look back on those teams. They don't know really how to win a football game. They always seem to have to come from behind or lose something at the end, and then it's like I don't know. I guess there's a formula to it, but let me get into it. Raiders. Josh McDaniels is there. It's a new regime. They're going with a new regime. Patrick Graham is a DC, is a defensive coordinator. Is that Patrick Graham? Am I getting this wrong? Is that Patrick Graham who used to be the DC or was a part of the Giants, the New York Giants coaching staff? I believe he got high praise. I could be off about that. And the offensive coordinator is named Mick Lombardi. I think they prefer to have Vince Lombardi trophy, but they'll stick with Mick for now. Maybe there's some type of lineage there. And by the way, Rob Ryan's the special assistant. Listen, don't get me wrong. The guy's been around for a while. When I was looking deep into his stats the other day, or just looking at him, I was like, you know what? Like, he's coached a couple of good defenses, but a lot of other ones weren't that great. I think it was that Saints run that might have got him some more jobs. Nonetheless, we all know what's going on with the Raiders. They got Devontae Adams in the fold. So right then and there, automatically you're thinking, wow, okay, that's the top dog. Um, College teammate of Derek Carr. Just go back and look at the numbers for both of those guys. So 2 years, I believe 2 years they spent together. Definitely, I know 2, maybe 3. Fresno State, but damn, big time numbers. Are they going to rekindle that magic and that chemistry and that camaraderie that they had in the previous days? I can't say they won't. And why wouldn't they anyway? Like, what's stopping them from doing it again? I mean, it is the NFL. Respect. But, excuse me, like, for Rodgers, Adams is that dude. Why can't he also be that dude for Derek Carr, who, like, just like Rodgers and Adams had great chemistry. Like, I know their chemistry between Carr and Adams haven't been together for a while, but the fact that it was there, it's like riding a bike. Let's just hope for their sake. Matt Collins is a part of the depth chart of the wide receiver. Do you know why Matt Collins is a part of the depth chart or part of the wide receiver crew for the Raiders? Because they love getting guys. At least John Gruden did, but now I know he's not there no more. But it's like the Raiders just love getting guys like that will do anything. I mean, at least the last couple of Raiders teams, they'll do anything to win. Like, Matt Collins is not going to complain about catching a pass. I've seen him catch one pass with the Dolphins in the game. Like, it was like probably, I don't remember, maybe it was a deep pass or something, but it was like that one time he touched the ball and it was late in the game. He didn't care. He was so happy to have caught that ball. Those are the type of guys that make a difference on the team. And that's why, I'm not saying he's going to be a tremendous asset, but I think he's going to, I'm not trying to downplay him, but I think he's a nice addition for special teams for sure. And like, I'm really going in depth on Mac Hollins with the Raiders. As you find, all right, yeah. So Hunter Renfrow too. Mac Hollins, respect. Got the best afro in the game. Hunter Renfrow, what does he do? Does he have a better season? Does he have a similar season? Like, either way, Renfrow and Adams is a nice little duo. Nice little duo to have for the Raiders to attack the field, to attack opposing defenses down the field, especially kind of covers all levels of the defense in a way. But Raiders, I mean, you never know. You never know with that. Points for 18th in the league. 18th in the league. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad either. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, they won 10 games by scoring 18. They're finishing 18th in points scored. And what's interesting is that they also won 10 games and they finished 26th in points against. So if you can explain that one, then please do. But I think that it has to do with the late game heroics, because that's the thing with the Raiders. They always got that second half, like, I don't want to say explosion, but they just come back into the game. They have this weird I'm telling you, this game flow for the Raiders is unbelievable. Because, like, they'll be dead in the water. Then all of a sudden, they find their way back in the game. Well, they'll be losing. And then Derek Carr needs just, like, it's not even, sometimes it doesn't even look clean. It just, short pass here, little scramble here. There's one, like, it's just the strangest operation of an offense. But now maybe with McDaniels, they'll have more of an identity because the Raiders try to run the ball all the time, but they don't get that many yards. So it's like how or when they choose to run the ball is going to be interesting because McDaniels, I feel like, I think he's going to have a plan. I mean, let's not go ahead and think that everything's going to be perfect because McDaniels is there because he had his opportunity once before with the Broncos, who have a history of being a good running team. And I don't remember the numbers there, but I know he didn't last very long with the Broncos. So maybe there's a little bit more leeway here, which there definitely will be. They're happy to have him. I want to see what they do with that offense because it's just it wasn't very fluid. It was rigid and it was a grind and it's just like a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of quick drives. But 6 game-winning drives last year, second most in the NFL. People sleep on Derek Carr, but he gets it done. 3 fourth-quarter comebacks, he gets it done. See what I'm talking about? I mean, another thing, he doesn't throw for a yard. I mean, he has been throwing for a lot of yards, and he's 4th in completion percentage. So, like, Derek Carr, like, I want to see what he does with an offense that has a plan. That's it. An offense with a plan. Because last year, to combine with those whole comebacks and this and that, can you imagine? 3.9 yards per carry. It was tied for the fourth lowest average in football last year, the Raiders. I mean, Josh Jacobs is better than that. So I want to see Josh Jacobs. I really believe Josh Jacobs is in for a nice season. And if you notice, he's been catching the ball a lot in the backfield recently. I think he had like 500 yards receiving. Or like 50. No, he had like 50-something catches last year, which I'm not sure if many people know that. So, or they would even believe that or think that. So I think Jacobs is in, but he's got, Brandon Bolden's there. It's typical, right? One coaching regime bringing over some guys from what they used to have in the other organization. Very typical. Bringing the guys that know your offense, bringing the guys that understand what you want to do. It's almost like they're teachers as well. But Bolden being there, Amir Abdullah, this guy, the quickest guy on turf ever. I want to see, their pass catching back. So how does that affect Jacobs in any way on third down, this, that, and the other thing? I think Jacobs is in line for a nice season. He's a tough man. He's a tough runner, and they got to preserve him a little bit more because he takes beating, or he doesn't mind a beating, but he does miss a game or two because of that beating. So we'll see. But listen, this is what I'm going to say: a star on offense and a star on defense. Does a star on offense and Devontae Adams make them better, and does a star on defense and Chandler Jones make them better? Talking about an amazing free agent signing. Like, we're looking another Hall of Famer, guys and gals. A Hall of Famer in Chandler Jones. Am I wrong on that? On that front? Chandler Jones on defense, the star. Devontae Adams, the star on offense. Like, is that what's going to help the Raiders, having one of those guys on each side of the ball? I'm stressing that because you got to commend them for getting these two dudes. Chandler Jones got paid. I mean, rightfully so, of course, everywhere. He gets his contracts because he is one of the best at what he does. Like, the guy, tell me how many sacks he has. I wish I had it right in front of me. I always seem to look at it from time to time and I'm forgetting. But, again, they made some little moves. They up front, they got Bilal Nichols from the Bears, although I think he might have been there last year, so let me not even try to act like, he's brand new. But they didn't add too much defensively. They have a young secondary. I mean, they got Rocky Sin. They got Rocky Sin in a trade for Yannick Ngakoue, who is younger than I thought he was at 26 years old. I thought it feels like this guy been around forever. But it's like they, for them, I guess it has to do with, I don't know. I mean, do they do better with a better running game? Is that something that would increase their defensive efficiency? I mean, they got rid of a lot of guys on defense, like a lot of guys. like Corey Littleton, who was a big pickup at one point, and I believe Trayvon Mullen. I don't know. I forget. I feel like he was a high draft pick. I could be wrong. He might be undrafted for all I know. But it's like Solomon Thomas was a 1-year project, and he's now with the Jets. And I mean, Quentin Jefferson's a big dude. He kind of reminds me of he's kind of like size of Chris Jones, not the effect, maybe not so much the effectiveness of him, but like they got KJ Wright retired. I mean, they really have a turnover on defense, and they're going with a lot of younger guys that they have. And, picking up a guy like Jayon Brown, they always love to get those linebackers. They always try to find that linebacker. If you notice their free agent pickups the last few seasons. But again, like for the Raiders to be better, I believe after talking about all these names, this and everything, offensively have an identity. Defensively, like 32nd in red zone defense, they were the easiest team to score on in the red zone. Those are the parts of the games that you got to master or you got to get better at before you can start winning games. Like stopping them in the red zone is crucial. Holding teams to field goals is crucial. They did not create many turnovers, only 15, which is the third fewest in the league. So, I mean, but it's a weird defense because I'm telling you, these teams are so weird. Like, I don't know if you guys and gals are into the number, but I'm into the numbers like this. I mean, I see what I see, but it's like you got to also look at the numbers. And it's like tie for third. They didn't get many turnovers. They were bad in the red zone, the worst. But they only allowed 5.2 yards to play, which is, you can say, tied for the seventh fewest in the league. So not a defense that you get to get a lot of yards on. But it's like when you're in a red zone, you're almost damn near locked in to get in. So it's like on top of that, they don't turn the ball over a lot. So it's like you could move the ball a little bit on them, I guess you can say. But I don't know. My analysis right now, I'm kind of drawing blanks, to be honest with you. But all I'm saying is this. If they can, which is something that I'm going to revert to this, not because I'm losing myself, but because it's a fact, is that they got to be able to maximize their pass rush. I mean, they got Max Crosby, who is a pressure machine, but they need to be able to finish. And guys who can finish, which is why they brought in Chandler Jones, who hopefully helps out Clelin Ferrell, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago. Now, if they can finish, then those numbers will come down a little bit. Those points per game will come down a little bit. It makes sense right now. It makes sense, right? Why they're 32nd and while they're 26 points allowed, because they're also their red zone defense is 32nd in the league. So they're really not stopping nobody. So that's going to contribute. It's going to contribute to a high amount of points scored. So in reality, the defense really isn't that bad at all. At least in between the numbers. So it's like, or in between from 20 to 20. So that's once they stop that. But it's here and there. Numbers this, numbers that. You can take it how you want, but it's just a matter of having an identity on offense. You got to have an identity in offense. And you got to be able to stop people in crucial moments. I think it's like almost like it sounds simple, but it's that. It's what that, those stats really stand out. So I'm really going on with these Raiders. I'm really going deep into the night. All right, we're going to knock that off the list here, guys. The YouTube Sports Network is making a debut that's longer than a Yankees-Red Sox rivalry game on Sunday Night Baseball. Forgive me. Who would know that I also have to cover the rest of the league for the second half, the NFC tomorrow. Yikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. Get out of here. There's no way I have 5 more teams left to go for you guys. Jesus. All right. All right. You know what? This is the debut of the YouTube Sports Network, and I'm speaking and holding you guys up. Like you want to hear me ramble and ramble and ramble and sometimes miss my point? Please, I know. It gets a little annoying after a while, doesn't it? Let's go to those. I want to talk about the Jets. Let's talk about the New York Jets. The New York Jets are 4-13, points for 28th, points against 32nd. At one point, they were the worst offensive team in football. Like I'm talking about first down, yards per play, pass, rush, yards per carry, everything. Like they were bad in every category. Not too long ago, a couple years ago. All right, now they have Zach Wilson, who, as a baby, looks like a little baby kid. But I don't know. Is Zach Wilson that dude, or is he going to be like a Baker Mayfield? That's something that I thought about. Is he going to be that dude, or is he going to be like another Baker Mayfield? It's like, I don't know. What are Jets fans thinking? Is he that dude? I'm confused. I need to see it. I mean, there are flashes. I didn't watch a lot of the Jets. Watch a lot of the Jets. I don't know. I mean, I find them to be. I mean, let me not hold my tongue, but sometimes they could be a little boring. It's like they don't know how to move. I used to say they're the most boring team of football. I mean, after just reading those stats, 32nd and everything, could you not agree? So here, let me hit these quick. Let me see if I can be quick with this, because on and on and on and on. You guys understand. These people, you guys are smart. You ladies and gals, and guys, you guys are smart. You know what's going on. You don't need me to tell you everything and dissect it like I'm just a guy on a computer, a nerd behind the camera. Excuse me. Yeah, a nerd behind the camera. A guy who doesn't do anything but look at the numbers and say this is it and nothing else, and this is my calculations. But come on. Here's the thing. The New York Jets. What's going to happen with them is this. Offensive line, I'm looking at you. It's almost like something about the New York sports. They can't figure out who the hell is going to be, or they can't figure out how to put an offensive line on there that's going to be able to do their job consistently. So what they did is they pick up George Font. Although, was George Font already there last year? Am I getting this wrong? He might have been. No, George Font was there. Excuse the miscue. See? My offense is 32nd in the league, too. What they did do was Laken Tomlinson, which I like. I mean, smart moves by these guys. They're getting players, and Laken Tomlinson for sure. And I think somebody got hurt, which is bugging me out. Oh, yeah, Dwayne Brown got hurt. That was a big one. Dwayne Brown's a quiet borderline Hall of Famer. Don't be sleeping on that guy. Guy's been good for a long time. He's in his mid-30s. Laken Tomlinson getting in left guard position. You got to get that because you know what? They got to run the ball. They got to protect him, but they got to run the ball. Elijah Vera-Tucker, another right guard. I mean, listen, he's still on the depth chart, still there. Didn't get cut. I mean, there's only a year in, 2 years in now. But it's like, let me make my point. What I'm thinking is this. Offensive line has to play better because you know what? For the Jets to be better, they got to get their running backs going. And please, I hate to see a guy like Tevin Coleman who got cut, who probably won't sign with a team. You know, that guy in fantasy football, when he was paired up with Devontae Freeman, like the 2016 maybe Falcons, that was a pretty dynamic duo right there. 15 and 16, I think. That was a dynamic duo, man. Didn't they go to the Super Bowl together? Isn't that the team? But yeah, the Jets, I mean, I can still say there's only one way to go from there, and they can't be a worse team. The only way they're going to be bad, I mean, they got Joe Flacco, quarterback. Isn't this freaking odd that they got Joe Flacco who's still hanging around? It's like Eli Manning is still playing football. They got Joe Flacco there. The guy's freaking – don't tell me he's going to make the Hall. He might make the Hall of Fame. You know what they say, man, hey, Super Bowl, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But Joe Flacco, sporting number 19. 19. I thought he used to wear number 5 for the Jets. Joe Flacco wearing number 19, starting for the Jets on opening weekend against his former team, the Baltimore Ravens. You know, they always say the NFL loves a good storyline. And this is what you got right here. Now, again, catching the ball. I mean, they got a nice depth chart. Garrett Wilson, my guy, Corey Davis. I mean, didn't even get drafted in fantasy football this year, I think. How can you do that to him? But in reality, like, he missed some time last year, and then now he's, like, buried behind the depth chart with Garrett Wilson there, and Denzel Mims was out, so maybe he'll get more time. I mean, Elijah Moore, who's came on strong last year near the middle of the season. So it's like there's a lot of there's the competition there for the greatest wide receiver in Western Michigan history. But it is Western Michigan, right? I mean, they added C.J. Uzuma, and they gave a lot of money to Tyler Conklin. I think he's making $20 million a year. Like, people don't even know. Some people don't even know who Tyler. I bet you a lot of Jets fans don't even know who Tyler Conklin is. And no disrespect to him, because he actually had a nice season last year. But it's like you're giving a guy a lot of money for something that he only did for 1 year of his life. I mean, 1 year in the NFL. Interesting. C.J. Uzuma. I like the tight end combination for the Jets, and it's just really gonna, again, like this. It's gonna have to come down. It's gonna come down to their quarterback play, but it's so repetitive. I feel like I'm being very repetitive. But if you really come down and you think about it, like, how are you gonna get the ball to the playmakers? You gotta get the ball to the playmakers. You gotta be able to run the ball. You gotta be able to block. You gotta be like simple football. The Jets gotta play some football. And with what's gonna help them though is that they have a defense. What I think is gonna get a little bit. I mean, they've been getting their respect. They've been like, that's one thing about the Jets. They've been saying for the last few years. Well, you know, the Jets play tough on defense. It's like, can you imagine if they didn't and they're as bad as they are on offense? They'd be getting crushed. They'd be having a number 1 pick for the last 6-7 years. Nah, but all jokes aside, I like what they did. I mean, Solomon Thomas, they're also going for that 1-year reclamation project. You can't blame them. Most first-round picks get that opportunity. But I'm really looking at my storyline is Carl Lawson. Unfortunately, his season was over before he even got to basically begin last year. And this is a guy who a couple of years ago was a part of the rotation for the Bengals, pass rush, and almost, I think it was in a rotational role. He was getting to the quarterback. He was getting sacks. He was creating pressure, creating havoc, and he was getting his sacks. And then he got rewarded once it became a free agent, where the Jets gave him a nice little contract. And then he gets hurt first year. So it's like, this is going to be, for some people, if you're not paying attention, you'll say, well, Carl Lawson, oh my God, I forgot we had this guy. That's if you don't follow the preseason and training camp, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I'm really looking forward to seeing the season he's going to have, because he's a really good player. And it's almost like he's never had that opportunity to shine quite yet. So this is what they're going to have. So, I mean, he's going to get his opportunity this year. What I also really like, and I mean, there's a lot of good names here, man. I mean, they had a tremendous draft. I mean, Jermaine Johnson, pretty boy, drafted number 26. You see him? Got the shades, got the suit. I mean, like, feeling good, looking good. But it's like, he dropped all the way down in the draft. Why did he drop that far? I mean, apparently the Jets really got lucky getting him. So, well, they're blessed to have him. So let's see what he can do. And I'm not going to take anything away from him. If he can get to the quarterback, that's all that matters. So I want to see what he does in the rotation, because he's going to get time. And that's a beautiful thing about it right now. When the defense, that's why the Jets are going to be good too, because it's not just 3-4 guys that, getting tired. These big guys getting tired, and they're like, don't have any energy to make an impact play. I can see now that the Jets, they're really going to be rotating it. They're really going to be rotating the defensive line. Based off all the names that they have in the first, second, and even in I don't know much of those guys, Bryce Huff, but they're definitely going to have a nice rotation. And don't underestimate, I love this pickup, Jacob Martin, pass rusher from the Houston Texans. 3 years, $15 million. It's like, that's a nice little contract. I mean, it's only not only, but it's $5 million a year. But Jacob Martin can be a guy that might pop this year. And you're gonna say, wait, who is this dude? And you're gonna go on the website, you're gonna look at his stats, and you're like, oh man, he wasn't that bad. Like, he's young. I think he's like mid-20s, and he was able. Now he's has a nice little contract. I mean, Houston wasn't gonna pay it, I guess. So he's in a nice spot with the Jets to go in rotation and do his thing. Be a full motor coming off the edge. So the Jets, I mean, of course they got Quinn Williams up front and stuff, and I like Sheldon Rankings. I mean, he was part of that defensive front for the Saints. But you got to admit, they got a nice little team going on right now. I mean, linebacker Quan Alexander was a nice pickup. I mean, they also have. They invested also in free agency besides C.J. Mosley a couple years back. They got a corner. They got DJ Reed from the Seahawks for 3 years and $33 million. That's right, 3 years and $33 million. So it's like you don't give that to somebody who's not that good. You give that to somebody who you expect to be on the field 99% of the snaps and making plays, defending passes, getting his occasional pick. So adding DJ Reed and adding a guy like Jordan Whitehead, who won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks, like now as the strong safety, and picking up a LaMarcus Joyner, who's a veteran, like who's a veteran and also played with the Rams, I believe, and the Raiders, and like guys that have been around a little bit. But Whitehead and Reed are the main, acquisitions there. So you add him to Sauce Gardner. What's Sauce Gardner's first name? I know it ain't barbecue, but Sauce Gardner. He feels he's the best cornerback in the draft. Others feel he's the best cornerback in the draft, and there's a good chance he's going to be the best. He is the best cornerback in the draft, and now he gets teamed up with or placed on the Jets defense that should get some pressure. He might have to say that he's going to be the rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, I don't think that's an understatement. I think he's in a position to do it because of the cast he has around him. And know what I really like on the Jets? I really like Ashton Davis. I remember seeing his highlights. I was actually watching college highlights, and Ashton Davis. This guy, he's light on his feet, and he gets around sideline to sideline. Really good safety that's going to do his thing in rotation when called upon. Maybe he could even be their nickelback. I know they have Michael Carter there. Michael Carter the second, not Michael Carter, who is the running back, but they have Michael Carter drafted same year, just around after Michael Carter running back, 2021. But they found somebody there as a fifth-round pick. So they have a nice, in my estimation, Greg Zuerlein's a kicker. Holy crap. He got paid by the Cowboys just to miss a few. But I like the rotation. I really like the team. I think the Jets are going to be much improved. I didn't even get into the numbers. I don't think I have to. Because whatever the numbers are, they should improve upon. Points for, all right, 28th in points for, 32nd in points against. Like, do I have to get into the numbers? Based off what they added, which they've made almost like a damn near roster overhaul defensively. And within those acquisitions, they got a lot of impactful guys. And they got a returning Carl Lawson. And I didn't even mention Breece Hall, who they apparently is a steal of the draft. So, that's why Tevin Coleman was cut, because a guy like Breece Hall. They essentially almost like the same guy, but Breece Hall's just got those fresher legs at this point, and it probably stays more healthy than Tevin Coleman. So, but if anything, 53 sacks allowed. I'll give you one stat. 53 sacks allowed was the fourth highest total in the league. The passing game completed 59.2% of its throws, tied second lowest in the NFL, which allowed them to be 28th in quarterback rating. But completed 59.2% of its passes, 53 sacks allowed. Before any success is had, it has to first start with the offensive line. It goes. Your offense will go as long as that goes. So once Dwayne Brown comes back and they got Laken Tomlinson, It can only be a matter of time when they start showing more improvement. And of course, I didn't even mention Garrett Wilson. Actually, I did with the depth chart. There's so much going on here. I'm giving so much. You know what? This is the team preview. Tell you what, I need to sit down. I'm standing up all this time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got a couple more here. We got a couple more here. Let's go. I'm moving. I said I was going to be quick, and I'm still going. An hour and 10 minutes. Wow. Guys, you want to hear me talk? You want me to hear it? This is, I'll tell you what, though. I did say it. This is the YouTube Sports Network, where it's going to be unorthodox, but it's going to be truthful. It's going to be insightful. You got to believe. You just got to believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 4 more teams. Don't even tell me there is. I got the Ravens out. I got these, man. That's amazing. I know what team I didn't give you guys. I'll come back to that team. I'm not even going to say it. You already know I'm talking. Oh, man, I already know who. I got you. We're going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. 3-14 in 2021. If there's one storyline that I'm thinking about when it comes to Jacksonville Jaguars, it has to be this. Urban Meyer is gone. Doug Peterson is in. Now, can anyone argue that Doug Peterson is a bad coach? I mean, Super Bowl victory, daring, prepared, thinker, cerebral. I mean, you got to be like that if you're a coach. But I think a guy that's going to be organized, I think a guy that is going to want it just as bad as everybody else. And I think that, and not just look out for yourself. But I think it's going to be a good partnership. I think this is, and it just seems like that's the thing with the NFL. They're really good at putting people in the right spots, man. Or like people wind up in the right spots. That's one thing I love. I really like about the NFL. These guys, they do their homework and they really put people in the right. Or like not they put. I mean, everybody, front offices and just the decisions that are made. They do well with replacing. Almost like the Buffalo Bills. Anyway, I just kept it simple with this. I mean, points for is 14.9, 32nd in the league. Points against, 26.9. Like, you're not scoring a lot, and you're giving up a decent amount, but you're not scoring a lot, so you might give up a decent amount because you're not scoring a lot. You're not moving the ball. There's only so much a defense can do. That bend but don't break, eventually you're going to break if you don't score much. So, I mean, when I think of the Jaguars, I just think of resetting it all, having a big reset, and I think about the development of Trevor Lawrence. If there's anything more important, is there anything more important than that? I mean, it's all about that. This guy, was he not the greatest prospect that it seemed to ever grace an NFL field or draft room? So now that he's entering year 2, and coming off a year where it was just a mess, all eyes are going to be on the structure and how Peterson is going to handle it all. And I think the environment's correct. I think that there are people there to help as far as personnel. And I mean, he's got his college buddy, Travis Etienne Jr. Horrible with these names. Travis Etienne. Oh my God, I can't even say it. Something as simple as that, huh? A friend of mine, huge on him in fantasy football this year. He's saying he's going to slash and dash, but he's also a big fan of James Robinson, so there's a kind of a conflict of interest there. But either way, I hope they both do their thing, because James Robinson, I have a misprint rookie card of his when he was on the Jets. Who knows? Maybe one day that's fulfilled. But as far as now, apparently that's worth something. They quietly have JaMycal Hasty. Does anybody remember JaMycal Hasty? JaMycal Hasty was with the San Francisco 49ers, and he was supposed to be part like, a guy that was in a – actually, then again, I shouldn't even say supposed to be. He was getting his time, but he just didn't really make the most of it. But he was getting some carries in it. But a lot of people get carries in San Francisco. And look at this, Snoop Connor. No relation to Snoop Dogg, but he's the fifth round pick in 2022. I'm not searching for information. I've just got distracted at the things I see. So, uh, offensive line. I mean, come on, what are we looking at here? Are they protecting the quarterback? Not. I mean, the Jaguars are kind of like middle of the pack team when it comes to that. I mean, they got Brandon Scherf from Washington. That was a. It's almost like Washington signed Andrew Norwell, and Brandon Scherf went to Washington. Went to from the Jaguars. Excuse me, from Washington to the Jaguars. So I believe Andrew Norwell was with the Jaguars last year. So it's like they swapped without even signing. Swift. That's a good one. Yo, you want to swip this for that? That's pretty good by accident. So that's the thing. They got talent. I mean, they got two first round picks along the two second round picks along the in the tackle positions. I mean, it's not like we don't know who these guys are. I mean, if you follow Jawan Taylor and Cam Robinson, like I just mentioned their draft years because you would think that those guys are going to pan out. So I'm getting at just because they're drafted there doesn't mean they're good or better than anybody else, or they're good. Absolutely, are doing their job more than. Let me restart this. What I'm getting at is what I really want to say is that the Jaguars are pretty much like a middle of the pack. They're not bad. They're not great at blocking for their quarterback, but they do the job. And adding a guy like Brandon Scherf and having the tackles that they do, and then they also drafted a center in the third round. Like they're getting some stability there. They have stability there, which is important. Um, they've had a huge free agent signing with Christian Kirk, who got paid. I believe it was like 70 something million dollars. I could be wrong. 4 years, 70 something. That's a lot. You can bet on one thing: the moon will come, the sun will shine, and the Jaguars in free agency will spend a lot of money on one or two players. It happens every single year for like since they claimed themselves to be Saxonville. But anyway, they did it this year again, and they paired Christian Kirk with Marvin Jones Jr. To me, I feel there's only a couple of guys like this, and I'll name them here: Kendrick Bourne, David Moore, who's not on an NFL team right now, I think, or could be on the IR, and Marvin Jones Jr. These guys are some of the best tough catch receivers in the NFL. And also, I want to throw this guy out there who's getting up the list now. Terrence Marshall Jr., who I call Tough Terrence Marshall Jr., who also makes tough catches. So I'm a fan of these tough catch receivers. Uh, Adding to that list, or not that list, tough catch receiver, but the receivers in general is added Zay Jones. So Zay Jones is finding himself on the roster again, which is good for his career. And Evan Ingram is there. And of course, what's up with this whole Chris Manhertz, Dan Arnold thing? Like, and when I say that, I mean like, what's up with the Jaguars and Carolina Panthers connection? Are they like constantly trading players? They always seem to like one bounces to the other. Arnold and Manhertz were Panthers, and now they're Jaguars. C.J. Henderson, I could be wrong. Is he another one that wind up from one to the other? I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, defensively, I mean, they tried, but the easiest team to pass on, as far as completion percentage, 69.4% of the passes were completed. Passer rating, the quarterback rating was over 100. They didn't swat many balls out of the air. They didn't defend many. They had only 32 sacks, 31st in missed tackles, bottom 10 in red zone and third down defense. Like, they didn't do much. They didn't do too many things well. So, what they're going to do there, so, I mean, naturally, what they do instead, I mean, they spent, I'm not going to attempt the name, but I guess I have to. Oh, man. Foye Sade. Oh, God. I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. The linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons, Olulukan. God, it's embarrassing to not be able to get these names. Please, I need a partner who could tell me how to pronounce these names properly. But anyway, I believe he got $54 million. That's the thing with the Falcons. They always come up with these linebackers. And that's why that's who basically That's who Rashawn Evans is basically replacing. Him, who's now on the Jaguars. I think he got paid $54 million. But interestingly enough, I mean, to solve that problem of the defensive line or needing help in the defensive line, they drafted Trayvon Walker, who was not, who was it, the first or second overall pick. So they're going defense. They realize that they need to draft defense. They also drafted Devin Lloyd, a linebacker from don't even ask me where he's from. My football fans, my college football fans, forgive me. Devin Lloyd, also another first round pick. So they made both of they chose two. They have two defensive players in the first round. So it's obvious and evident that they know what's going on and they have to improve defensively. And that's what they're going to do. So to me, I can give you numbers. Yeah, the offense wasn't good and defense wasn't good. But what they're going to try to do, oh my God, Josh Allen. You know, something about the name Josh Allen. I just caught my eye for a second. I totally forgot. My man, Josh Allen. Are we sleeping on Josh Allen? The defensive Josh Allen, who is also an amazing Josh Allen. There are two great Josh Allens in the league. Just remember that. So, yeah, both sides of the ball. I mean, they also signed Darius Williams from the Rams, who not too long ago was a guy who really worked his way up the depth chart for the Rams and who really made a name for himself by way of his hard work and just being noticed. And now he cashed in a nice little deal with the Rams. With the Jaguars to be one of their starting corners. So to pair up with Shaq Griffin. So I don't know. I like what they got. I mean, I like where they're headed. I think they're making some right moves, and I think that it's just a matter of riding the ship and having Doug Peterson lead them in the right direction. I think they're slowly going to get there, and I expect a little bit. I don't know they got to be better. They could be better than 3-14, but they got good. They're starting to implement even better players or a solid roster to go with it. So that's what I'm going to cover. I'm going to move on. We're going to move on from the Jaguars. I mean, I think I did my due diligence for the Jaguars. I'm going to write them down right over here. And I think we're going to stay within that division. And we're going to finish up in that division. And we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts, who everyone feels is going to make the jump. And I'm not too sure. I'm with it, but then I'm not sure because when I think of the Indianapolis Colts, the one thing I think about is I worry about, well, not worry, but I wonder how Matt Ryan's going to perform in the red zone because it's not like, if you look back at the numbers, it's not like Matt Ryan's really lighting it up or succeeding in that part of the field. And that's something that last year the Colts really didn't succeed in that part of the field. So is there a tremendous jump, or is there actually a opportunity to be better at the quarterback position, or are they getting the same type of player? That's something that I was wondering about with the addition of Matt Ryan. But then again, you can argue, and I think it's pretty fair to say, that Matt Ryan is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. I don't think that's something that, I think that's pretty fair to say. So how it's going to fare, we're going to see. But I think that as far as we're going to first and foremost talk about or mention that Jonathan Taylor is the running back for the Colts. So last year in fantasy football, I was pretty excited when I was able to get Taylor 8th overall. I think he went 8th overall. And I'm like, how do people not realize that this guy is about to go have an amazing season? So I was lucky to have gotten him there. And the Colts are lucky to have him on their actual real-life roster. So to me, as long as they got Jonathan Taylor and they got that offensive line, everything's intact from last season, that should be what at least allows them to continue to move the ball up the field. But it's going to come down to where they are in certain portions of the field and how they execute, as for instance, in the red zone and like third down. So, for instance, okay, here we are. Points for. The Colts were 9th in points for, and points scored, and they were 9th in points against. So, top 10 in both scoring and defending. So you can't actually, if you're a Colts fan, you can't actually be disappointed with that because, I guess you can say that a 9-8 record, right? You have your top 10 in both points scored and points against, but you have a 9-8 record. So that means that something did not go wrong, did not go right in a certain part of the game. Now, one thing I do know about the Colts defense is they might give up here and there, but they also took the ball a lot. They took away the ball a lot. They had a lot of turnovers last season. They created a lot of turnovers last season. But one thing that plagued them, see, so they had 19 interceptions, so that was tied for third. But a thing that they weren't able, that's one thing that's been avoiding the Colts, is something they haven't been able to yet be consistent with, is getting pressure on the quarterback. Hurry percentage, pressure percentage, sacks, they're near the bottom of the league. And in fact, they were last in hurry percentage and 31st in pressure percentage. And on top of that, they gave up 31. They gave up 32 pass touchdowns. So I think there's a relation. I think those two stats are relative to one another because without pressure, that quarterback has a lot more time to throw. So they were then able to pick apart the defense. So that's why it also makes sense why they got a lot of picks. So they took a lot of the teams were not afraid to throw on them, despite the fact that they still had a lot of interceptions, because there was some success in that department. So, but either way, overall, besides not getting to the quarterback and having low sack totals and stuff like that, the yards per play as well was 5.6 yards per play, which ranked 25th in the league. So the fact that they still had still gave up the ninth fewest points in the league, that says something about their team. That if without that running game, can you imagine where they'd be when they had to be on the field more? Because obviously we know when you run the ball well, your defense is saving a little bit of time from being on the field. So the Colts, bear with me here, it's getting later, so I'm kind of falling into oblivion, but we have one more team left. The Indianapolis Colts, points for, okay, I keep mentioning that, passer rating last year. Carson Wentz, as bad as everybody says he was, he had a 94.6 passer rating, which is 13th overall, and he still managed to have 12th best third down percentage and the 20th ranked red zone percentage. So, like I said earlier, red zone is going to be key. Being able to get into the end zone is going to be key. And how Matt Ryan gets them there is going to be key. So are they really improving, moving on from Carson Wentz and going to Matt Ryan? Or are they going to pretty much stay the same? I know I've been rambling. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job right now. But we're going to do it. So defensively, to match that, to be able to bring down some of those passing numbers, because like I said, they were easier to move the ball on. They went out, and they, number one, first and foremost, they got Stephen Gilmore. They give him a 2-year, $20 million contract. So it's obvious that they still have a lot of value. They still see a lot of value in Gilmore. So giving him $10 million, I think it's a fair deal because he's not too far removed from being the dude he's always been. So they obviously see the necessity to get that tied up over there in the back end. So they get Gilmore. Now, defensively, a couple guys left. Xavier Rhodes, he wasn't brought back. I thought he was actually having a resurgence, but he wasn't brought back. He's a free agent. Kari Willis, who's becoming a reliable safety, he retired. They traded Rocky Sin. And Angel Sendejo, who really, I don't know, the guy lasted in the NFL for a while, but I think it's because he just was hard-headed. He sacrificed his body like crazy. But I think because he was hard-headed, he gave up a lot of plays that, it was almost like, talk about Daniel Sorensen. There was also some almost like a running joke about Sendejo as well. You know what, though? I got to give it to him. The guy plays his heart out, so I can't take nothing from him. But otherwise, it seems like they're pretty. One thing about the Colts right now, they're bringing back a lot of the same guys. It's a pretty. I'd say the band is back together, just like the Chiefs. The band is back together pretty much for the Colts. But the player really to pay attention to will be Yannick Ngakoue, who they got from the Raiders, who was in line to get a lot of snaps, of course, and who's really well is absolutely needed to be that stopper, to be that drive ending force, or making it a little easier out there, or making it, like I keep referencing to, making it a little easier for the secondary. So that's going to be key. I want to see how the Colts respond, but I want to see, that's most importantly, can they get that pass rush going, which has been a problem for them last year in particular. But how are they going to fare when it comes to third down in the red zone? That is going to be the difference for the Colts. Third down in the red zone. Offensively, third down 12th last year, red zone 20th. Defensively, 26th in the red zone last year, and 19th on third down. So if there's something about a team that was top 10 in both scoring and points against, but had a 9-8 record, it's going to come down to those portions of the game. Third down and red zone, both sides of the ball. Simple as that. Now we're going to finish with this. Jesus. We're going to finish with this one. We're going to finish. Let me mark that one down. Last team. Ready? Want to know what the last team's going to be? The last team is going to be none other than, and if you will follow me along, you'd say, oh, wait. Don't tell me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Get out of here. There's 2 more teams. I thought I wrote 15 teams down here. All right. Forgive me. This is what we're going to go with. 1 more team is left to play with, or 2 more teams, and one of them is going to be this. The New England Patriots. New England Patriots. So here's what we got going on with the Patriots. Bear with me. The reason why I've slowed up a little bit, because we have company at the door. Very close company to me. Somebody who's had a long day, and somebody who probably at this point, being that it's time of the night, just wants to chill and relax. And my feet, I'm standing here for an hour and 30 minutes talking, are starting to fade. So let's get this going. Let me finish this up here. Wow, live streaming, an hour and 30 minutes. This is the YouTube Sports Network. Let's move on. Patriots. I don't think anyone really remembered this or noticed this, but I will say this about the Patriots. Did you know the Patriots had the 6th most points scored per game last season with 27.2, and they were 2nd overall with the fewest points allowed at 17.8? Can you imagine? See, that's the thing. Talk about coaching. The New England Patriots finished 10-7. So think about it. In a year when everyone was like, "Oh, Mac Jones this and Mac Jones that," not that there was any type of doubt, but it's almost like they were waiting for him to open up the offense. Just like that time when they played the Buffalo Bills and they only let up 3. He only threw the ball 3 times, I believe, in Buffalo, and they just kept running up and down because Bill Belichick and his staff, especially Bill Belichick, knows that the way to beat teams like the Bills is to keep the ball out of their hands. And that strategy worked. So one time I saw it was 2 for 3 or 1 for whatever it was, and he had 18 yards and he won the game, I was bugging out. And even after that game, they still wound up with the 6 more. I don't remember what the score was in that game. So what I'm getting at is this. Now that you know those numbers, just know that if we're going to go down a list, like I like to, as you know, there's a pattern here. What do they have good? Well, they have an old offensive line that is one of the best in football. You don't run the ball as well as the Patriots did with a bad offensive line. So the fact that they have one of the strength of their team is they are intact. Besides trading Shaq Mason, of course they trade Shaq Mason to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Tom Brady. Is that a coincidence? They help him out a little bit, but in comes Cole Strange, and just as his name might be, yes, there was a joke in there, but brain power is fading. Cole Strange was what some would say, an out of nowhere, like nobody expected the Patriots to take Cole Strange in the first round because apparently he didn't have a first round grade. But Patriots, I mean, again, we all learn not to underestimate or judge the Patriots too harshly because we might be proven wrong in the end. So Cole Strange is in. Shaq Mason's is out. So I believe that they know what they're getting. And besides that, Trent Brown, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, and Isaiah Wynn. Mike, my apologies for mispronouncing your name. But what I'm getting at is that's a very intact offensive line, a team that knows how to run the football, and a quarterback who now has another year under his belt. Running backs that know what they're doing. And one of the better wide receiver cores. I don't think that people are giving a lot of credit to. One of the deepest in football. My boy Kendrick Warren, one of the toughest. He's a tough catch receiver. I mean, you got Nelson Aguilar, who's a burner, very light in his feet, gets down the field very easily, and had a decent year last year. I wonder if they get the ball to him more now that Mac Jones is going to be more comfortable, even that much more comfortable. A guy that, can you imagine the Patriots and the Dolphins making a trade and the Dolphins trading Devontae Parker to the Patriots? I mean, if there's somebody who has to have a chip on their shoulder, is it not Devontae Parker? Is this guy not in line to have a great season or a really good season? At least have a major impact on the Dolphins? On the Patriots? Yeah, I'm still thinking that. So that's somebody that really caught my eye, and I really want to see how his season winds up. Because the Patriots are going to use him. And of course they're going to use him against the Dolphins. But Jacoby Myers, I mean, what else can I say about the guy? It's just that typical Patriots receiver that finds a way, he makes the team, undrafted, and he becomes a reliable guy. One of those typical receivers, like they won the Super Bowl with him because he just does his job and does it well. So that's a Patriots guy. So offensively, are they going to be better than 6th overall in points scored? I mean, can we say they're not going to be top 10 again? And they got to open it up just a little bit more. As a Patriot, if you're a Patriots fan, you got to feel pretty good about it. Deep receivers, good running backs, a good offensive line, a quarterback who's drafted in the first round, who they're very grateful to have, who's now going to take a step up. Happy to see Ty Montgomery on the team. Looked like his career is kind of fading. So the fact that the Patriots, I see it's 2 years for $3.6 million. He didn't, and I believe he had to fight for that contract. I believe he had to earn that roster spot. So I could be wrong. So good for Ty, who came up through the Packers. Came up the Packers in that nice rotation they had. Jamal Williams, Ty Montgomery, Aaron Jones rotation. I like it. Number 88 used to wear. Now he's wearing number 14. But yeah, I like all those things. But yeah, Patriots, they knew how to do it. Ninth most first downs in football. The 5th best completion percentage. The 3rd fewest sacks allowed. You're not giving up sacks. You're completing most of your passes, and you're getting a lot of first downs. And on top of that, 10th on 3rd down percentage, 11th in the red zone. That's an offense that's returning everybody and has a quarterback that is getting more comfortable and added another weapon in the receiving department. And not to mention 2 tight ends who they signed a couple years ago are ready to take another step, especially John. What happened to John Smith? He had 200 yards receiving last year. I want to see him step up. But Hunter Henry, he's going to have a good year too. But the bread and butter of this team, for sure, has always been the Patriots' success at defense. I mean, they drafted 2 corners, one in the 3rd, one in the 4th, Jack Jones and Marcus Jones, to team them up with Jonathan Jones. And with the Patriots, they just did it because they wanted to run. They wanted people to talk about it like me. Jones, and Jones, how crazy is that? I mean, it kind of is funny. Pretty is interesting. And I bet you all 3 of them are going to be good. Well, Jonathan Jones has been there for a while. But Jack Jones and Marcus Jones, love it. I mean, Jalen Mills is a guy, good for him. Good for him. Because I remember him with Philly when he dyed his hair green. He was mixing it up with the Cowboys, doing his, doing what you do on a football field. And now he's a Patriot and doing well. And there for multiple years. So you got to give it to him. You got to give it to Jalen. You got to give it to Jalen Mills. I like guys who the Patriots like. I feel like if they like you, everybody's gonna like you because you obviously have. Yeah, this is year two. This is year two for Jalen Mills with the Patriots. So good for him. And of course, they still got Devin McCourty. Can you imagine 2010, first round 2010? He's still there 12, 13 years later. But again, let me stop rambling. I want to get more into this. Patriots sound defensively. Everybody, it's always that do your job, do your job, do your job. Sound defensively, know exactly. Everybody knows their role. But one player in particular that I want to focus on before I move on is Jabril Peppers. I feel like the Giants, they wanted to get the most out of him, and it was a nice acquisition when they did get him. It was a nice spot for him, but it just didn't quite turn out, I guess, the way we envisioned it to be. For him to stay there as short as he did, I don't think that was the plan. So now that he's with the Patriots, I mean, to add to that safety group that has the veteran Adrian Phillips and has the Kyle Duggar from where is he? Lenore, what school was that? Another draft pick similar to Cole Strange, and nobody thought that he should have gone where he did. But if you watch him play football, if you watch Kyle Duggar play football, talk about light in your feet, but a big guy that can move around. No wonder why he's also a special teamer. A kick returner, nonetheless, as a corner. I love it. Or as a safety. So, yeah, Chase Winovich and his blonde hair has been traded for Mack Wilson Sr. So, I'm not going to get too much deeper into it. Raekwon McMillan, and of course, I'm not going to get more into it, but I keep mentioning names. I like what they got going on. I mean, the Patriots are going to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, how do they respond to some certain losses along the, to the regular? How do they respond to J.C. Jackson no longer with the team and signing a major contract? Give it up for J.C. Jackson as an undrafted free agent to sign a 5-year, $82.5 million deal with the Chargers. Undrafted to that much money. It's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, they're down guys, but guys who already had the replacements on the roster who are now going to step up. So that's that. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. They were better than their first downs against, QB rating, pass yards against, completion percentage, all these numbers. So not only did they complete all their passes, they prevented all the other team from completing their passes. It was like the flip side. It's amazing. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna move on to the Chargers. I mean, it is late out here. I think you guys get the point. Welcome to the YouTube Sports channel. Welcome to the YouTube Sports Network. I'm already naming my channel the wrong name. Let's keep it going here. I want to move this on. Moving on. My God, the debut that's running long. They got no advertisements to cover. All right, here we go. An hour and 42 minutes. Can you imagine? With the 5th ranked offense, the focus here should be on the Chargers. Can they make timely stops on defense, and how can they control a game? Those are the notes I wrote. The Chargers are 9-8. The Chargers they have a hard time stopping a run. That's what it comes down to. The Chargers have a hard time stopping a run, but they have no problem getting up the field and scoring some points. So when it comes to the Chargers, just like it came to the Raiders, it's about how are they going to win football games? How are they going to figure out a way to close it out? That's what I'm thinking about. Because they have a head coach who's going to take a lot of risk. He's proven that. Sometimes it backfires. Pretty sure he's not going to take as many risks this year as far as I think he's going to be a little bit more conservative in play calling. And I think he might be able to. They let some guys go along the defensive line. They let the popular Uchenna Nwosu, who I'm a big fan of. He was a very noticeable player, especially the last couple seasons. He's a good run stopper. Doesn't get a lot of sacks, but he's a strong edge rusher, I guess you could say. Tackle for loss type of guy. He's moved on to the Seahawks. Got a reasonable contract for the Seahawks. Concern, but what they added, what they brought in, was Kazir White. Oh no, excuse me. These are the departures. Kazir White. No. That's what I was looking at too long. Nwosu and Kazir White. These are two guys who, well, Kazir White is more of an athletic type linebacker who does get tackles for loss, so he's going to play a lot in the backfield. So the fact that they were bad at stopping the run, but they still let two guys go who were more than capable of doing it, goes to show you that, well, maybe they couldn't afford them because they got some good deals. Well, they really couldn't, because look who they brought in: J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack. You got to pay those guys. So they have a decent amount of departures. I guess you can consider it an overhaul, but not so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys left. 9 guys who contributed on defense last season left. So, and what they did was they instead made some free agent signings that they hope to attract, like some Troy Reader from the Rams, impactful linebacker. Kyle Van Noy, I guess you can say he's taking the spot of Nwosu. Morgan Fox, a rotational defensive end. Sebastian Joseph Day, who got 3 years and $24 million, formerly of the Rams. It's like those Rams guys get paid. Austin Johnson, who actually emerged as a reliable defensive tackle for the Giants last season, now signed a 2-year, $14 million deal with the Chargers. So they gave their money to other players. Bryce Callahan to team up with J.C. Jackson, not making nearly as much money as J.C. Jackson is, but going to be needed just as much, especially with J.C. Jackson missing a few games to start the season. And then you got Khalil Mack. So you can argue that the Chargers are going to make a jump defensively. I mean, they did have a lot of guys depart, but also the guys that they added have a lot of impact to them. Guys that they added, I really like the Troy Reader. I really do. I mean, Joseph Day and Johnson, they're gonna cause havoc up the middle. They're strong guys that are gonna be needed to stop the run. I mean, if they're gonna stop the run, they're gonna have to get what we called earlier, beef up the middle. And then you had a pass rusher like Khalil Mack in a corner like J.C. Jackson and a veteran like Bryce Callahan, and then you team them up with Derwin James and Jerry Tillery, the first-round pick from a couple years ago. I mean, and then Joey Bosa, who I didn't even mention, and then Kenneth Murray Jr., the linebacker, first-round pick a couple years ago. There's a lot to like here. Drew Tranquill, who got hurt a couple years ago to start the season, and I hated to see it. And he came back last year and played a damn near full season. Asante Samuel Jr. in the secondary for second-round pick, from last year. I mean, is it safe to say that the Chargers are going to be a better defense? I think it's no doubt. They added playmakers. They added guys for what that need to do their job. They added guys that would help with what they need. So stopping the run, you got to beef up the middle. Pass rush, I mean, you already have Bosa. You had Khalil Mack to Bosa. 2 Hall of Famers, maybe. Yes, for sure. You got your corners. You got an underrated Michael Davis who's been getting time, who's a depth corner now, which probably will help his role as well. They got the linebackers, good tackling linebackers. Nick Neiman, don't estimate him. Nick Neiman's a good tackling linebacker. So, that's his brother. It must be his brother. There's another name in the league. So that's the thing. That's what we're going to focus on. Chargers need to stop the run. Chargers are going to move the ball. But how they're going to do defensively is the most important. Because points against, 24th in points against. Third most first downs given up. Third most total yards given up. Secondary wasn't great. I mean, the D-line had 51 sacks, but Bosa had a lot to do with that as well. I mean, they got the pressures, they got the hurries, they got the blitzes. And then you add who they added, and then you add in the secondary. You still have, again, it's the formula. It's a formula that these guys follow. So that's that. You know they're going to do the thing. Oh my God, forgive me. I want to make a correction. That whole third, I was looking at the wrong thing here. Forgive me for the misread statistic. I said the sacks and the pressures and the hurries and the blitzes. And I said the third most first downs and the third most total yards. No. Those are the Vikings. Those are the Vikings. The Chargers' trouble is the red zone and third down and the third most missed tackles and allowing all the first downs and allowing the most rushing first downs. Again, it speaks for itself. I don't have to correct it. Chargers, Vikings, they both need help on defense. But I like what they did. So with that being said, it's time for me, at this time, when 1 hour and almost 52 minutes into it, and late night, and a lot of hours into the night, I think it's time for me to rest my eyes and then come back with the final analysis and the only analysis of the NFC. Okay, this is the YouTube Sports Network. You guys, I'm signing out. We'll talk soon. And remember, just believe it. You just got to believe.